其实城市本来就是形形色色的人居住在这里，生活在这里，然后跟着这个城市前进。透过各种文学作品，还有文学的发展，它正在展现形形色色的人曾经怎么样度过日子，曾经怎么样生活过，曾经怎么样挣扎，曾经怎么样快乐。所有的喜怒哀乐都在这种不同类型的作品当中有一个很好的风貌。
The earliest Taipei literature consisted of indigenous folk songs, legends, and stories. In 1697, Yu Yonghe asked for permission to go to Beitou, Taipei, to mine sulfur. According to the record in his small sea travel diaries, he visited many indigenous villages and also made a record of Taipei's Guandu Plain. After the early 1800s, local literature gradually developed with the appearance of schools and scholars' studios. By the late 1800s, Taipei's literature had developed even further. Particularly in the Dalongtong area, early literati established an important literary foundation. Among them, Chen Weiying was a representative example of a literary writer of the time. Chen also worked hard educating his students, which stimulated interest in academic writing in Taipei. However, due to China's defeat in the Sino-Japanese War of 1894 and the signing of the Treaty of Shimonoseki during the following year, the Qing government ceded Taiwan and Penghu to Japan, and Taiwan became a Japanese colony. This is the former site of Taipei's Southern Vegetable Garden and is also the site of the villa of Governor General Kodama Gentaro, who was the fourth Japanese Governor General of Taiwan.
固定障害にボールを結び、筆境疎ければ、刑もまた疎し。
In 1899, Governor General Kodama Gentaro held a Taiwan-wide poetry competition for Japanese and Taiwanese literati, taking his villa's Southern Vegetable Garden as its topic. During the following year, Governor General Kodama had a poetry gathering at the former site of the Danshui School and invited over 100 literati from throughout Taiwan to participate. Today, the former site of the Dongying School, which was located at the corner of Changsha Street and Taoyuan Street, was where the Danshui School was located. The corner of Taipei's current Zhonghua Road, Section 1, and Hengyang Road is where the Taiwan Daily newspaper had its office during the Japanese colonial period. The Taiwan Daily newspaper was first published on May 6, 1898, and a Chinese version was published in July 1905. The newspaper continued to be published until the Governor General's office merged the Taiwan Daily newspaper with the New Taiwan News on April 1, 1944. The Taiwan Daily newspaper was the longest-running newspaper in Taiwan during the period of Japanese occupation. Among them, Wei Qingde, who joined the Taiwan Daily newspaper at a relatively late date, eventually became the manager of the Chinese language department of the Taiwan Daily newspaper. This is an excerpt from one of his poems written after a visit to the Sulphur Springs Valley in Beitou.
流烟高起3000中，焰气腾腾，热通响。行人遥指是红倾，轻呼楚红时来往。
By the 1920s, Taiwan had already been subject to Japanese colonial rule for over 20 years. Around that time, an unstoppable, explosive movement got underway starting in Taipei. In 1921, the Taiwan Representative Assembly petition movement, initiated by Lin Shentang, got underway and marked a turning point in Taiwan's cultural resistance to Japan. Established during the same year, the Taiwanese Cultural Association launched a popular anti-Japanese movement driven by cultural awakening. This current two-story building, located on Yanping North Road, is where the Taiwanese Cultural Association and the Taiwan People News were located at that time. In 1924, Zhang Wojun published a letter to the youth of Taiwan and Rotten World of Literature in Taiwan in the Taiwan People News, which initiated a debate between the old and new literature. In 1925, Taiwan's first literary magazine, Everyone, was founded by Yang Yunping and Jiang Mengbi in Taipei's Dadaocheng district, and set the stage for other subsequent magazines in the colloquial language. In spite of the fact that Yang Yunping was only a 19-year-old high school student and Jiang Mengbi was barely over 20, their forceful articles lent power to their promotion of colloquial literature.
地球是人人共有的，地球上的物是地球的装饰品，人人在地球是创造和修理那地球。
From the time Taiwan's new literature movement got underway in 1920, it gradually matured and developed over the course of the next decade, and had its golden age during the 1930s. For instance, the publications Starting Force and First Line, which were published in Wanhua, devoted much attention to the development of Taiwanese literature and the problems that it faced in the 1930s. Many young writers with leftist and anarchist sympathies wrote about their state of resignation toward the colonial government. The writer Wang Shilang took the cluster of buildings in central Taipei that had appeared in the wake of the Governor General's office's modernization campaign as a metaphor in his novel Ruination.
他无所事事，信步行到广大的血斑赤红的总督府的时候，这四周竟是广大的官衙洋楼的建筑物中央，高耸云霄地俯视下界屹立的尖塔上空。
With the rise of new thinking and the new literature, an academic atmosphere began emerging in Taipei, which constituted the hub of Taiwan's political, economic, and cultural development. First, the establishment of an up-to-date education system laid a strong foundation for the emergence of academic thinking in Taipei. Yang Qianhe, who graduated from what was Taiwan's highest educational institution for women at that time, published her Japanese language short story, Time of Blooming, in Taiwan Literature in 1942. The scenes in the story seem to reflect the conditions at Taipei Women's College when Yang was studying there during the 1930s.
南国の太陽が3月にしては強すぎる暑い日差しを投げかけている青い校庭の芝生で、モロアの結婚、友情、幸福を読む声は講堂から流れるピアノの音と溶け合って美しい旋律を狭い校舎いっぱいに漂わしていた。
Bearing witness to Taipei's modernization, Dadaocheng, outside the city wall, projects a different cultural ambiance. Japanese-style restaurants, taverns, and coffee shops were plentiful in this area, and numerous writers and literary figures met or engaged in activities here. The public really ate up scandals like this in those days. First published in 1935, the Wind and Moon magazine recorded many happenings among the world of geishas. Although Taiwanese society gradually began to display color and vitality, it still could not escape its colonial fate. Especially after 1936 and through the early 1940s, a mighty tsunami surged through Taipei's literary world. In order to implement full-scale Japanization, newspapers had to terminate their Chinese language columns, and only a few popular papers, such as the Wind and Moon magazine and Nanfang, could keep publishing in Chinese. But in spite of the mutual rivalry, both Taiwanese and Japanese writers had great interest in folk issues, which were discussed in Folk Taiwan.
那所以这个民俗台湾，它以这个黄凤芝他们在艋舺的一个皇家哈，他们的一个作为一个出发点之后哈，它逐渐就是扩大到整个艋舺地区的比较传统的一种市井生活的一个场景这样子。那黄凤芝它也因此在这个鼓励之下哈，它也一共出了3本的文集哈，作文集。所以它就被称作是一个台湾的文学少女好的这样的一个称号。
那文学从来其实不单纯是一个文字的表达，它其实是一种思想的载体。所以如果我们要去体会台湾人怎么去生活的，台北又是一个怎么样发展过来的，那我想文学是一个很好的媒介。